Hey, so in this video, I wanted to speak on the claim that exoticals are just lovers and upholders of the isms. First of all, if me liking my skin tone, my features, and my hair makes people view me as an ismist, then it is what the fuck it is. And I don't know if ismist is a word, but I'm gonna start using it from now on so I don't have to keep saying colors and features and textures all the time. But mistaking self-love for anti-blackness or self-hate is a stretch, and we'll get into why I feel that way. And this is going to be one of those longer, just kind of chit-chat videos because I'm not really in the mood to edit too much. But anyway, I'm sure you've seen this video floating around.
I was walking to my car this morning after my Pilates class, and this guy stopped me, and he was like, "Oh my God, your hair is so beautiful." I replied back, "Thank you." And then he tells me, that's the problem. Black women don't wear their natural hair, but your hair is great. Keep rocking it. I looked at that man. I said, "This is actually a wig." He was gagged. He was like, "What?" I'm like, "This is actually a wig." I proceed to do this to make it seem like it's a fake bun. This is my hair, by the way. But I'm like, this is a wig, because how do you all compliment Black women but also disrespect us in the same sentence? I don't understand. Anyways,
if someone is threatened by something as uncontrollable as how your hair grows from your scalp, that's not your fucking problem. The superficial isms in our community are here because anti-black people and the actual self-haters are holding on to them for dear life. People born with phenotypes less common to the big group can't help how we were born, and it's natural to enjoy compliment if you're perceived as beautiful. And with that said, no one is forcing Black people to pedestalize ambiguous phenotypes. So you mean to tell me that Black people who don't quote unquote benefit from isms get to do all these enhancements to artificially benefit and still not be called an ismist? But someone who naturally has these features can't like their own appearance or feel beautiful without being seen as anti-Black? Make that make sense. Imagine being so insecure that other people can't freely give and receive compliments around you. That's actually mentally ill. Like in the case of this girl, do people expect her to fry her hair until she has a struggle ponytail, or what's the expectation once it's clear that she's faking the humility? Because it doesn't matter your hair type. Healthy hair takes work and consistency, just like everything else in life, and you should be proud of it if you have it. I've also noticed that if you're a confident MLS woman, less confident Black women will think you want them to be sidekicks. It's like, no, you just lack self-assuredness and feel like a sidekick standing next to someone your internalized hierarchy deems quote unquote above you. That's a poor self-image that you're in control of. I'm also confused about how people are seeing how displaying and endorsing fake humility is weird as hell. And it's usually just to cover up for hierarchy thinking. I can't relate to doing shit like this, and maybe that makes me conceited or just secure, but I refuse to be in an environment where I, one, need to fake being humble to fit in, two, have to mask anti-blackness behind Black pride, three, treat Blackness as a handicap, or four, I need to shit on someone else to artificially uplift myself. It's like y'all don't know how to just raw dog self-love. You have to look around first every time. So you don't know how to feel beautiful without comparing yourself to someone you feel is lesser. You do know that you can love and value yourself without hating and demeaning someone else, right? So wait, you don't think it's unfair to project your hierarchy thinking attitude onto people who you feel are better than you? No? That's weird. Your inferiority complex is showing. And let me guess, the only way to soothe your complex is to surround yourself with people that have low self-esteem.
When y'all realize that the qualifications to be most of these people's friends is low self-esteem, you'll stop being offended you weren't about it. Trust me.
And that's why I'll always be thankful I got my high self-esteem having ass othered by you hierarchy thinking niggas with inferiority complexes every time. I can't understand why people think their internal struggle should be the center of other people's narratives. If you don't value your own beauty or yourself in general, what the fuck does that have to do with me?
It's none of my business. It's none of my business.
Do I feel bad for people like that? Sure. But I'm not going to undo my inner work and healing to match their energy. How literally insane is it to ask someone to undo their shadow work to lower themselves so you don't have to do your own work? And I don't think that's exclusive to the Black community either, because you can see teen movies everywhere where you have a girl who doesn't know she's conventionally attractive, as if having low self-image or a lack of confidence is a sign of virtue or some shit. It's not. But it does make you more appealing to predators. Y'all do know that you should like, or at least be comfortable with, the way you look and who you are, right? And if not, make the changes. Don't punish other people. But anyway, going more into detail on the exotical love of isms, I want to explain how I think about isms as a monoracial Black person, since I don't care about hierarchy, but supposedly benefit from that type of thinking. And it might seem like I'm going on a tangent a little bit, but it'll come back around. It usually does. Or maybe not. But I didn't really try too hard to organize these thoughts, so you're just having a conversation with your ADHD friend today. Anyway, I realized people view the exotical perspective as anti-Black because I think the refusal to pretend we dislike our beauty and features, regardless of what ancestors they came from, sounds anti-Black to people who high-key associate Blackness with ugliness. It seems they want you to ignore your full ancestry to win points for Blackness, when there are gorgeous, unambiguous Black women all over the world. However, even as a person who identifies as monoracial, I'll never speak against exploring your full ancestry, even if it's for something as simple as knowing what health conditions you're more susceptible to. Embracing all that you are is truly unconditional love for yourself and your ancestors. And just referencing back to my last video, I attempted to make a clear distinction between being a mixed Black person and being an quote-unquote admixed light-skinned monoracial Black person. No matter how contradictory that sounds, like I said in that video, race is often just as influenced by culture and upbringing as it is your actual genotype, because it's a construct. And because it's a construct, I realized that Black Americans are extremely out of touch with reality. And I mean, like, global reality. And I see less of this debate from Black people from non-American cultures, but I think the problem is so many Black Americans are still taking a very slavery-oriented approach to racial identity. I'm not saying other groups of Black people don't, but I can only speak from the Black American perspective, right? And what makes upholding slavery-based traditions so weird to me is that we as Black Americans probably are one of the best positioned groups of people in the African diaspora to have already done away with slavery-based thinking as far as privilege goes. But sure, for most admixed Black people, the story of our admixture does come from slavery or some dynamic during that time period. And I think because Black Americans have this idea that we're all admixed, we need to step back and come to grips with history, because that's how a lot of Black people try to gaslight you out of being interested in your ancestry, especially if it manifested in your phenotype. Like, someone was like, ew, you want to know about slavery grape? No, but it's a part of the truth. And nobody seems to question the fact that your Black grandpa was 32 when he impregnated your 13-year-old granny. Yeah, okay. History is traumatic. Embrace it, heal, and move on. But contrary to popular belief, because I don't place whiteness on a pedestal, I've researched and realized early that rich white people don't either. So white indentured servants were at the bottom and intermingled with slaves way more often than you think. And that's why admixture is actually so common. It's also why I'll never understand racism from everyday white people, because if your family was rich enough to own humans during the antebellum era, they're probably still rich as fuck now. And that's not a lot of the population, regardless of race. And because I didn't do a bunch of research on indentured servitude for this video in particular, I have in general, but just not for this video, I'll just give an example of something I know. Like, it's the reason Italian dishes like spaghetti are staples in the Black community, because we share customs with people we worked alongside. Just type in any ethnic group with indentured servitude and it'll pop up. Like, all those groups, China, Italians, et cetera, got some form of reparations. And that's actually one of my epigenetic beefs with the Motherlanders, but I'll get into that some other time. But anyway, where we are in the world and where it's going as far as racial mixing is that there are mixed people being born out of love or some form of love every day. So we shouldn't still be using antiquated anti-Black systems to control another individual's identity by pretending that we all have the same experience just because we all have some degree of Black ancestry. We can't let go of the traumatic traditions. One drop is no longer legally a thing. This is why I don't refer to mixed people using monoracial lingo like light skin and dark skin. And that's just a distinction that I personally make as a person who, treads slightly in the middle. Once you get to a certain degree of mixedness, I view you as a POC, like a Hispanic person or an Asian person. And that's when I start to use technical or like makeup terminology to describe your skin tone, which I don't really talk about other people's skin tones, so I don't normally have to. I don't walk around calling medium tone Indian people light skin simply because we share a skin tone, because that's weird. And I'm sure they have their own terminology for it. Even with people like Obama and Harris, if Obama didn't openly embrace and specify that he's a quote unquote black man, I would just consider him a POC because I don't like to assume or force people into blackness. Even so, I still call him a mixed black man simply because how many monoracial black people do you know are raised by biologically related white people? And someone commented this on my channel recently. I think it was a good question because it does kind of go into like the exotical love of isms, but it's really more of a focus on how white-centered exoticals focus on hierarchy. So in this comment, she says, what are your thoughts as a light-skinned monoracial black woman on the phenomenon in recent years, at least online, attacking biracial black women who have grown up monocultural, who identify as black and who are phenotypically black and have a black experience that is more in line with you're saying that biracial black women are taking from unambiguously dark-skinned black women's representation, but then women who are monoracial who benefit from the isms can't be the representation for unambiguously black women either. Do light-skinned monoracial women feel that's hypocritical? And do you have any feelings toward biracial women who identify more closely with their black heritage due to their experiences in growing up in a monocultural black household/environment? And I'm going to answer that in kind of a long, drawn-out way of just like how, like I said, how I think about the whole situation. So on this channel, I'm gatekeeping the term light skin, which I personally use to describe obviously admixed, not mixed, monoracial black people. Unless I'm using the blanket phrase light skin saviors or struggle light skins to describe the monocultural mixed people and light skins of black skin. And in a way, that's also gatekeeping the term dark skin because these are terms I hear used exclusively in the monocultural black community. So let's say it's January and I'm fully faded 5230 and I'm sitting next to a biracial girl who's the same skin tone. Let's take a situation I've actually had before. Someone walks in and says, well, the light skins is out today. And the mixed girl says, well, I'm biracial. I'm glad she said that because my personal choice is to call her mixed or biracial or multiracial because that's what she is. Whether or not she embraces or centers her blackness as a POC is not my business either way. I don't have a hard time accepting the nuances of our experiences just because we can share a phenotype. So I'm saying our skin tones and hair textures may be similar, but the way they came about are from two different types of situations. And that happens sometimes, and that's fine. But those different situations are why I distinguish between light skin and mixed. Light skin is saying I got it from my admixture. Mixed says you got it from your non-black parent. I also don't refer to brown skin exoticals as dark skin either, but unambiguous black women are holding brown skin exoticals hostage by their throats over there and forcing them into full blackness as representation. I've personally never witnessed a light skinned monoracial forcing a medium tone mixed person to be our representation. And I personally will never force blackness onto somebody who wasn't raised as a monoracial black person. Outside of the exotical community, it is sad to me that as a light-skinned black person, I feel I have to defend my experience against a group of people who have similar experiences. Some mixed people identify heavily with their blackness, but somehow still manage to let their inner colonizer show. You can't just come to someone's territory and scoot them to the side and decide that they don't deserve to be in their own territory. What in the Plymouth Rock Pilgrims type of shit is that? Light-skinned monoracials are nice enough to make room for mixed black people and let them hang when their parents can't afford to move you out of monocultural blackness into the suburbs so you can thrive in your inherent multiculturalness. Let's be real. Back in the day, where I'm from, and you can still see this shit all over the internet today, in a monoculturally black setting, you get bullied for having a non-black mama. Being empathetic, light-skinned monoracials had no issue sharing space with mixed people who were ostracized by the unambiguous black community. And we also still made room when the bigoted biracials decided that you weren't white passing enough to sit with them. And for the biracials with closer to whiter passing skin tones, we let you sit with us when the white people didn't want you to sit with them. But unambiguous black people still decided to ostracize you. However, light-skinned monoracials still exist. So if you're coming over here calling yourself light-skinned as a mixed black person, which in my mind, you're not light-skinned, you're a medium-tone POC, you better be trying to join fucking forces against bigots who plan to terrorize your kids for also being light-skinned. This isn't a, hey, black women, don't let them take your identity speech, because I see how similar our experiences can be while still being different. And we all know that the black women they're referring to when they say mixed people want to replace black women are light-skinned monoracials. It's not unambiguous black women, because light-skinned monoracials are the default black representation in mainstream media that are quote unquote being replaced at the moment. But I've never had a problem making room for people. This is simply a, hey, stop being a disingenuous ass light-skinned savior, because they still don't like you or your mama, and they still plan the other you even though they still pedestalize you. Don't get confused. The anti-black folks just pulled you over here to fuck with self-loving light-skinned monoracials who benefit from multiple isms. But they were going to be bothered regardless, because it's not going to work. Because I still love myself and my blackness. And obviously, I'm not gatekeeping blackness, because if it's there, it's there. I can't take it from you. But I will protect mine and other light-skinned monoracials' experience within the black community, because despite us having superficial fluidity, many of us don't step outside of the Blackistan bubble because we weren't raised inherently multicultural. And I don't want my fellow light-skinned monoracials to feel they have to accept abuse in order to fully embrace their blackness. Just because you're black identified, it doesn't mean you're no longer mixed. Meaning you'll always have another community to go identify with. We do not, as light-skinned monoracials. So don't be a hierarchy thinking, scarcity-minded bitch about it. You should be able to respect our position and experience without trying to erase it, because that's all I've ever witnessed light-skinned monoracials trying to do for mixed people is make room, at least for the non-hierarchy thinking ones. Because ultimately, we get it. We're all the medium-tone middle children. Times have changed. You get to call yourself mixed and be proud, and nothing's wrong with that. You don't have to pretend to be a monoracial black person anymore. Although mixed passing monoracials and black passing mixed people can share a lot of experiences, whether they're beige or brown skin, I'm distinguishing my experience as a light-skinned black person because I was raised by black people. Refusing to call mixed people light skin or dark skin is me trying not to disrespect the immediate non-black ancestry of a mixed person by snatching them into or observing their experience exclusively through the lens of black culture. I'm not going to pretend their non-black parent or grandparents don't exist or discount the nuances within the non-black part of their upbringing. Nor will I disrespect my own experience and upbringing to make room for light-skinned saviors who feel guilty about incubating in a white woman. I know how to coexist. I know how to bond on similarities. I know how to learn from and respect our differences. I don't hate people who are a different shade of brown than me, or feel some type of way because somebody experiences the ism in a different way that I experience it. That's crazy to me. And I honestly don't think about other people that much. And maybe I feel that way because I've been around the world and just see people as people and don't pedestalize non-blackness. Or it could be because I'm a very self-assured person, and that could be because I'm very cocky about my blackness. Like I said before, I'll get into when I speak on black privilege in an upcoming video. Maybe that's why I don't understand the hierarchy thing. I'm not Hotepi or a black supremacist. I feel very equal to other humans, even in my blackness. But being a person who can easily dabble or be forced into fluidity, I find that I'm personally very protective of Black American culture, even the monolithic aspects. And some of those aspects can be hilarious or even traumatic, but those are the things that make us us. So I personally don't view mixed people as a better version of blackness because I'm not a fucking eugenicist. I simply view mixed people as the cultural liaisons that they are, whether they like it or not. However, because of a lot of Black people's internalized anti-blackness, some mixed people are being used to make cultural gentrification easier for people who like to commoditize blackness. And I don't want the non-Black culture to get too comfy co-opting Black culture. Because like I said before, when you are monoculturally mixed, but you still center whiteness, that inner colonizer can come out. And obviously there's a difference between appreciating the culture that you are naturally a part of and making room for the other culture you're a part of to appropriate. You know, Black people always keep creating shit because that's an area where we thrive, but I want Black people to be acknowledged and paid for our intellectual property. But we see examples of appropriation every day. Mainstream culture getting too comfy in Black culture looks like, whoa, Vicky calling herself light skinned. I was like, no. Like Consuelo off fucking Family Guy. Or it looks like non-Black Jewish people saying nigga while they're rapping Drake songs because they see themselves reflected in Drake, but also forget that he's half Black. So instead of showing the groups how they're similar to Black people and, creating a connection, it becomes this toxic embracement of our differences. And I do think we make it harder for mixed people as monoracials to be healthy liaisons because of hierarchy thinking, but it's also the job of their parents not to let Black people gaslight them out of being multicultural, because that's a net positive, and you can almost certainly predict that they'll try to ostracize your child for being different. Like, come on out. Like, we should have people should be writing books about this at this point. I think Black people want to be accepted so bad by other cultures. Meanwhile, we gaslight and ostracize our ambassadors. Like, make it make sense. But I also think it's because we don't want to be equal. We want to be worshipped the same way we worship non-Blackness. So I think that's really the problem. And I also find it very ironic that most Black people with Black supremacist views, although most of the times it's very performative, they still have such a hard time not referencing rules from a time of deliberate anti-Blackness to dictate how we expect people with Black ancestry to identify with their own Blackness. If we're so supreme and evolved as a group of people, you think we know how to treat each other like individuals with unique experiences and respect that, without forcing mixed people to neglect other parts of themselves or making them feel like they have to choose. That's just plain old fucking delusional. Well, they get to hop in and out of Blackness when it's convenient, and that's their right. They aren't making being mixed their identity. That's the built-in flexibility of their identity. And they deserve to feel loved and accepted by both sides. You may be jealous of that fluidity, but you shouldn't guilt them for it. Because it's better for everyone's mental health if you just allow people to identify with their own mixture freely and focus on your own reality and identifying/using your own privileges. But that's just how I look at it, because I don't think mixed people are better for having a direct connection to a non-Black person. If anything, I'm just interested in knowing what their experience is like. Like I said, I've said this plenty of times. I'm nosy. I like to learn about people. But on the same token, that's exactly why I think it shouldn't be a question why light-skinned monoracials are included in the exotical space. It doesn't matter if all Black people are admixed. The manifestation of admixture in our phenotype lends us a more nuanced experience than Black people who didn't have this phenotypical occurrence, even within our own families. Just like I don't have the same experience as a light-skinned monoracial with 4C hair. And that's not me saying I'm better or worse. I like 4C hair. I'm just saying our wash days and weekly maintenance is a bit different. Acknowledging the nuance and not feeling guilty about it isn't self-hate or anti-Blackness. It's an acceptance of fucking reality. I don't think light-skinned monoracial should have to take a light-skinned savior approach to feel more connected to our Blackness, because the reality is we're Black. And a part of the question was, do I have any feelings toward biracial women who identify heavily with their Blackness? And the answer is no. I guess because being the most ambiguous of my parents' children, it just, kind of makes me realize how uncontrollable that shit can be. So that's not really a competition. And just out of respect for your non-Black parent and light-skinned monoracials who have a full Black experience, you should have no issue saying that you're mixed. It's not a competition for a space. I don't think in terms of hierarchy, so there is not a scarcity mindset behind the way I think about other people's identity. That's just fucking weird. So I don't think it's hypocritical. I just think it's kind of narcissistic to want to control other people's identities to feel better about yourself. I think that's just weird. I think a lot of Black people pull mixed people into Blackness because of their own self-hate. And having someone so close to non-Blackness allows them to, in a very long, drawn-out bout of mental gymnastics, it allows them to keep blaming their personal failures on Blackness, especially if that mixed person is succeeding at anything. I mean, it's the same way they do light-skinned monoracials. And obviously, throwing mixed people in and out of blackness helps self-haters to triangulate light-skinned monoracial people as well into their group of self-hating black people who hide behind things like pity privilege and black pride and stuff. It's crazy that they do this, not even realizing that treating any degree of blackness as a monolith is anti-black. When they treat blackness as a monolith or snatch people born with fluid identities into monoracial blackness, doing the same thing white supremacy did to us by attempting to strip us of our individuality. Someone else's lived experience shouldn't be offending y'all so fucking much. So just calm down and let them live. But that's just how I feel about hierarchy thinking and our supposed love of the isms and shit. Moving on, just based on a lot of the commentary I've seen, I've noticed a lot of black women are so starved for male validation that they think anytime you love yourself or enjoy anything in life or utilize any of your privileges, it's because you've been validated by men for it. Can't fathom having an internal locus of control and just loving yourself unconditionally just because you enjoy life. Someone was in my comments saying, all of this is for the attention of black men. I'm like, bitch, what? One, the capacity at which I mentioned black men is mostly limited to discussions about misogynoir. Two, I can deliberately say I've never centered men, and then they'll still think you being attractive means you're male centered. No, I've already said beautiful women are centered by males, dear. That's not the same as centering men. Do I believe some women experience both? Yes, but that's not the case here. I'm never starved for male validation. Therefore, existing isn't a competition for black men. At least not for me anyway. I personally don't discriminate, so I'm not particularly fucked up about what black men prefer. But this is a typical microaggression against exotic women, so it's not even shocking for real. I saw one lady was like mad that we use the word exotic or exotical, like that's dehumanizing. Okay. Well, welcome to patriarchy, where women are dehumanized and male-centered women join in on the objectification. Like, girl, that anger is hella misdirected. If we can transmute the negativity, you can too. Why are you so worried about it? It's a joke. Lighten the fuck up. And then I saw a comment that made a good point, and it said that people look at attractive people. Why do we think it's about being quote unquote exotical? And I'm thinking this is how you know they don't share the experience because a lot of people are a lot more vocal and expressive about their hateration than you think. The other day I was out and about and this girl stopped me and she was like, "You're pretty. You're so pretty." And she just kept saying it. I'm like, "Okay, thank you." And later that day, a guy was staring at me and he just kind of looked and I just looked at him. And then he just started complimenting my skin and saying how clear and radiant it was. Shout out to that 84 ounces of water minimum a day. I get comments like that often, so I know the difference between that and, oh, that's your hair, or how they'll just stare at it. And I notice this a lot when I straighten my hair, and because I straightened my hair last week, since it's cool enough to keep it straightened finally, and I was wearing it like in a messy bun on top of my head, and I notice how they just stare at it, or like they'll literally speak to my hair. And my friend referred to it as the quote unquote white girl flop, and I was like, what? There's a name for that? Like to me, I call it the boneless silk press, like they do on TikTok. But they don't even speak to me. They're speaking to my hair, like they just look up at my hair and just start talking. I'm like, that's so weird. Mostly with a fucking attitude. And then there's always why you walk like that. Because I'm very when I was younger, I look down a lot when I walk. I guess like my ADHD kicks in. I just need to think about shit without like being weird and staring at somebody random. So I made sure to balance that out, that I keep my shoulders and my shoulders back and my chin up. So I'm just, walking, like a person with confidence because I am. I just, I get in my mind sometimes that I just don't even notice what I'm doing, but I train myself out of that. So I get a lot of, comments about how confidently I walk sometimes, or, like the random full body scans followed by scowls and why you so light skinned, especially in the wintertime. Like, would I ever get away with asking someone why they're so dark skinned? No. But also, I wouldn't ask because I don't give a fuck. I like this comment that a guy always leaves on my channel that basically says black women don't need mixed features to be beautiful, and I completely agree. I personally never said that, and I've never heard any other exoticals say that, or at least none that I listen to. So I don't know where the anti-black claim came from. Like, listen, I don't exotify myself. I just look like me who looks like my mama. Other people have exotified me. Women do, men do, black people have, non-black people have, and have used the word exotic to describe me, which was weird to me because I didn't even think I was exotic before people would start calling me that. Normally, after I started traveling, you don't have to agree and you don't have to disagree with my ambiguity or any of our ambiguity. That changes literally nothing about our individual experiences. Being considered exotical isn't saying beauty doesn't exist elsewhere. Some of the most beautiful people I've ever seen in my life were unambiguous black people, but that doesn't make me less appreciative of my own combination of features. I don't think beauty has a shade or specific features. I just value beauty in general. I don't pedestalize race or think in terms of hierarchy like, woohoo, your white mama got fucked. My black mama did too. Lucky for me, both of my parents were very attractive and made attractive children regardless of their blackness. I'm not white supremacist, nor do I want to be mixed. I already have admixture that influence my phenotype. I already get exotified. They already tell me I'm gorgeous. I never needed non-blackness to experience privilege out in the world. No one stopped me from being multicultural, and it's probably because people usually assume that I am anyway. And I still get to flex my four black grandparents when I decide I want to be monocultural, and unambiguous bigots decide they want to invalidate my blackness. I love the flexibility and fluidity of my experience, but I also love how firm I get to stand on my blackness as well without having to be a light skinned savior or fake humility. And this is the last thing that I'll address that I've been seeing about things people are saying about the exotical space. I've seen a lot of people say that this space gives off quote unquote weird energy, and that's not weird energy, boo. You just can't relate and don't know how to observe experiences objectively. And that's fine. You're probably neck deep in struggle culture, and I can't relate to that, which is fine. But I'm not knocking you. I'm just keeping my distance unless I want to collect more data. And then I saw this tweet and this girl saying, "This is embarrassing." Like, baby girl, quote unquote exotical is just a catch all for women who have similar experiences with pretty privilege, like red pill or divester or manosphere or femcell, right? It can't be more embarrassing than black women begging for validation online constantly when we're just making room for black women who've already been validated. But people don't like when pretty girls talk. I told somebody in my comments that they should probably watch my content and learn something. And they were like, there's nothing to learn. Okay, so why are you weirdo bitches over here? Or are you afraid that you'll hear something and you'll agree? You could afford to learn something outside of your struggle shit that you hold on to, but it's your prerogative, boo. But anyway, I'm just rambling at this point, and I apologize I didn't organize my thoughts as much as I normally do for this one. But I did want to post because I'm trying to be consistent as possible, y'all, because I'm so close to a little milestone. It's so cute that y'all are here. Thank you so much. I'm only like 30 short of 1,000. But if you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe and hit me up in the comments because y'all know I like the dialogues. And I'll see you next time. Toodles.